What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be looking at the best guns for hardcore game modes in Infinite Warfare. I'm going to be taking a look at the most important stats like their one-shot kill ranges, rate of fire, recoil, as well as aim down sight times. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so the first thing to note, just in case you're new to hardcore or you've never really looked at the in-depth stats on hardcore, you get 30 health as opposed to 100 health in core game modes. Because of this, a lot of the guns in the game have a one-shot kill potential. Actually, almost every single gun in the game has a one-shot kill potential. But I decided to start this video off by narrowing it down to guns that have a one-shot kill potential beyond 20 meters. Also, keep in mind, I'm going to be focusing on SMGs, LMGs, and assault rifles. I'm not going to be looking at shotguns and sniper rifles because those are niche guns. Yes, they can be really solid in hardcore, especially shotguns. They're actually quite good in hardcore. But they're niche guns. They're not very versatile guns. We're looking at the best, most versatile guns that you can use in hardcore game modes. I also want to point out that just because a gun isn't on this list doesn't mean it's not viable in hardcore. Pretty much every gun in the game is viable in hardcore. I'm just deciding to focus on the ones that are best suited to hardcore. So first up, let's look at the one-shot kill potential of these guns that I selected. As you can see here, the Volk and the RPR Evo in assault rifle mode absolutely dominate when it comes to one-shot kill potential in hardcore, because they are always a one-shot kill unless you're shooting through something with the RPR Evo in assault rifle mode, or if you're trying to bounce a shot off a wall with the Volk. As long as you hit them directly and not through any cover, it will always be a one-shot kill with these guns, even if you have a suppressor on them. So these ones clearly stand out in that area, but next up we've got the Raw, which has an excellent one-shot kill potential at 56 meters. It's pretty rare you're going to find a gunfight beyond that range. And similar thing with the Titan. The Titan's got a 48 meter one-shot kill potential, and again, you're not likely to be challenging gunfights beyond that range. Moving on to the next best one-shot kill potential, this one was quite surprising. It's the MacTav. It's actually an SMG, which a lot of people are probably surprised to see because the most commonly used gun and what's generally considered by a lot of people to be the best gun in hardcore is the NV4, and it's beat out by an SMG when it comes to its one-shot kill potential in hardcore. Having said this, the NV4, of course, still has a great one-shot kill potential. It's pretty easy to keep yourself within those ranges where it will be a one-shot kill. After that, we've got the R3K, and the really interesting thing to point out with the R3K is this is its one bullet kill potential, not its one burst kill potential. So even though it's not a completely amazing range compared to a lot of the other ones, the chances of you being able to hit 2 out of 3 shots in a burst are very, very high with the R3K. And therefore, you're still going to be absolutely destroying people with the R3K because it has an infinite 1 burst kill potential. It's actually got an infinite 2-shot kill range, so you don't even have to hit all 3 rounds in a burst, even across the map. So the R3K is a very solid gun in hardcore, and this chart doesn't really do it too much justice. But keep in mind, all you have to do is hit 1 single bullet at that range to get a kill. Now finally, we've got the OSA and the K-Bar, which are very close, and they just got barely beyond 20 meters. And that's pretty much it. Those are the only guns out of the SMGs, LMGs, and assault rifles that have a one-shot kill range beyond 20 meters. All of the other SMGs are within 20 meters or exactly 20 meters, as well as the Mauler. The Mauler is actually exactly a 20-meter one-shot kill potential. And I just decided to leave all those out because, yeah, they're great up close, but they're not the most versatile guns in the game, especially when we look at SMGs because their target assist range is super short. And that is a note that I wanted to make about the MacTav. Even though the MacTav has an amazing one-shot kill potential and it's even better than the NV4, that's going to be quite a bit beyond your target assist range for the MacTav, and therefore that kind of brings it down a notch, but it's still a very solid hardcore gun. So if you're just looking to maximize your one-shot kill potential, you can have a look at this chart. They're all in order there. But now let's move on to another stat that's somewhat important, but not quite as important as it would be in core game modes, and that is rate of fire. Keep in mind, if you're planning on just one-shotting your enemies all the time anyways, rate of fire is essentially meaningless to you. But there are going to be a lot of situations where it takes you a couple shots to actually get onto target and get your kill, and that's where rate of fire starts to come into play a little bit. So what I did here, since rate of fire isn't the most important stat for hardcore, I decided to just overlay it on top and keep the same order, so you guys can just have a look and see what those rate of fire values are yourself. But as you can see, we tend to have a bit of an inverse relationship, which makes sense. The longer the one-shot kill potential, typically the lower your rate of fire is going to be. There's a couple exceptions though, like the Titan and the MacTav for instance, both have higher fire rates than the NV4, and they both also have a longer one-shot kill potential than the NV4. So there's a few little interesting areas there, but just keep in mind that usually the longer the one-shot kill range, the lower your rate of fire is going to be. Now with hardcore, a lot of you guys probably already know this, but one of the most important things is being able to snap onto target as fast as possible and get your first shot off faster than your enemy does. Because of this, sprint out times as well as aim down sight times are very, very important for hardcore. But the thing with this game is, sprint out time is nearly irrelevant because it's pretty much equal between every single gun in the game, and it's very, very fast. Sprint out time is nearly irrelevant in this game. But aim down sight time is still an important value to consider. So I decided to add the aim down sight values just below the gun so you can see there. And as you can see, all of the assault rifles aside from the Volk aim down sight in 250 milliseconds. Then with the Volk, as well as the LMGs, the Raw and the Titan, they aim down sight in 300 milliseconds. And then finally, the MACTAV aims down sight in 230 milliseconds. So this is something that you definitely have to have at least in the back of your mind. If you're using something like the Volk, the Raw, or the Titan, you are going to be 50 milliseconds behind everyone else. And 50 milliseconds in hardcore in the middle of a gunfight can be a very, very long time. Now keep in mind you can run quick draw on these to cut that time down, but generally everybody's running quick draw in hardcore anyways, so while you still cut down your aim down sight time with a Volk, they're cutting their aim down sight time with their NV4 for instance, and they're still going to have that advantage over you. So just keep in mind when you're using something like the Volk, the Titan, and the Raw, you're always going to be at a slight disadvantage to the average player that's using something that aims down sight faster. So finally, I want to take a look at the recoil of these guns, because this can play a bit of a role in hardcore game modes, especially if you're running into multiple enemies, or maybe you're just not so great at getting your first shot on target. Recoil is important to take a look at. So what I decided to do with my test here is I just did a wall test with only 10 shots per gun. And the reason I'm only doing 10 shots is most people do their wall tests with like a full magazine of 30 rounds or 45 rounds in some cases. And what you tend to see when you do those recoil tests is the recoil tends to be okay for the first little bit, and then it starts getting out of control and it goes crazy. In hardcore, you aren't ever going to be firing a full magazine at an enemy. On average, you're not even going to be firing more than like 10 rounds towards your enemy. Even 10 rounds is a bit of a stretch. And this is why I wanted to limit my wall tests here to only firing 10 rounds per gun. It makes it much more accurate to what you're actually going to be experiencing in-game while you're playing hardcore. And also, you might notice I kept these in the exact same order as our range chart, except it's left to right instead of top to bottom. So we start off with the Volk here, and the Volk, after that nerf that it got a while ago, it's got some unpredictable recoil. It can get a little bit crazy. So if you are using the Volk in hardcore, I hope you're confident in hitting your first or second shot, because it starts to get a bit out of hand after you fire a few shots. The RPR Evo in Assault Rifle mode has a very nice tight group, as well as the Raw and the Titan. They also both have pretty good groupings there. The Titan gets a little bit weird sometimes. It kind of kicks sideways, and it can be slightly hard to predict at longer ranges, for instance. The MACTAV is generally pretty good, but you can see we have that one little outlier there. So sometimes it gets that one really weird random shot that just goes where you don't expect it to go, and that might actually screw you up in the odd gunfight. So it is something to consider with the MACTAV. NV4, as we all know, has a nice tight pattern. It's not like completely laser accurate, but it is quite accurate enough that you shouldn't really be missing shots due to recoil. R3K, I fired 3 bursts, so I fired 9 rounds instead of 10. But as you can see, very, very tight grouping there. R3K is practically a laser beam. Moving on to the OSA, OSA gets a little bit weird sometimes. It is a controllable sort of recoil. It does tend to kick up and to the right fairly consistently, so a solid player can usually counteract that recoil and predict that recoil and manage it. But keep in mind, out of all of these guns that we're looking at so far, I would say the OSA is the hardest to control. And then finally, we've got the K-bar. And the K-bar isn't that bad. It kicks pretty much straight up most of the time. And therefore, if you just aim a little bit lower on the body, or you just pull down very slightly on the right analog stick, you're able to keep on target for those 2 shots that it'll likely take you to kill at those mid sort of ranges. And therefore, it's very controllable and very easy to handle in hardcore, in my opinion. So as you can see here, the ones that really stand out, we're looking at the RPR, the Raw, the NV4, and the R3K. A bunch of the other ones are really not that bad. The ones that you have to kind of keep an eye out for are going to be the Volk, the OSA, and kind of the MACTAV sometimes, because it can get that weird little outlier every now and then. But overall, my opinion on this is really any one of these guns is going to be an excellent choice for hardcore game modes. But just looking at all the stats, my favorite is the RPR Evo in Assault Rifle mode. It's quite accurate, it's got an infinite one-shot kill range even with a suppressor on it, It's got a slow rate of fire, but that's okay as long as you're hitting your first or second shot. That's not really going to play much of a role. Your aim down sight time is among the faster aim down sight time guns. And generally, I would just say it outclasses pretty much everything in this game when it comes to hardcore. So that's just my opinion. I'd like to know in the comment section below, judging by this as well as your own experience playing hardcore, what is your best hardcore gun in Infinite Warfare? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.